Recording in progress.
So, welcome to the Finance Committee meeting. First of all, thank everybody for coming out. It's just an introduction, but I think everybody here kind of knows each other. I don't know if we need to go through any type of introductions. And then I can just call the meeting to order. Basically what I really want to do, as this committee was formed, is develop some structure, make sure that we're doing the things that we should be doing and in the form that we should be doing. So the first thing that we were going to, kind of discuss was the preview and authority of the finance committee. Legals here, I mean, what per bylaws, what are we supposed to do?
Well, there's not a lot specified other than the treasurer. And the treasurer shall have charge and custody, be responsible for all funds and securities of the corporation, receive and give receipts for monies due and payable, manage the money, and in general perform all the duties incident to the office of treasurer. There's also the duty under section 5.5 to review and authorize expenditures above $1,000.
Yeah, of the treasurer of
That's the finance committee specifically.
and from my standpoint, as the treasurer, we want to be very transparent with what we're doing and how we're doing it. So the things that the treasurer is, I guess, responsible for, I'm going to be very transparent and open for the finance committee. So we know what and why we're doing what we're doing with the assets and what we have. Now, as far as just from that day-to-day kind of operation to the approval of expenditures, in my opinion, and everywhere where I've been, that $1,000 mark, that's a low mark. Now, I don't know what our average expenditures are, but I would think that, $5,000 to $10,000. I mean, that may not be in some cases high enough, but maybe that could be high enough here. But we need to look at that and make sure that, as the interim executive director and staff really has the ability to conduct operation in the day-to-day expenditures that we need. Now, knowing that, look, we should be informed on everything, but I do think that number should be increased.
I think this is our first meeting. No, I don't know that we know what the burdens are. So I think the last ledger I saw, there were like 10, 12 transactions a month. So I don't think that we're at a position where it's onerous at this point. And that we could evaluate it in, say, 6 months.
One thing I would suggest is that particular dollar amount will work as long as your staff is just me and Rita. But it will get burdensome and it will slow things down tremendously as the organization grows and as you take on your permanent CEO. It will have a detrimental impact on your ability to attract a good CEO.
No doubt.
If you look at the comparables at the water company, which is also a public entity, if a project is if a project and its budget have been approved by the water company board, then the staff has the ability to spend per that budget. And it's the same at TARC and at MSD. The board exercises control by approving a project, and they don't approve the project without a budget being outlined. I'd also suggest that there's a difference between signature authority, that is, who can sign a check at what dollar amount, and expense approval of that. So I would want to caution you to separate those things out and to think of them in separate.
Say that one more time.
There's a difference between and what dollar amount check can your CEO sign?
Where is that now?
I'm not.
What's the question? I'm trying to get people on it.
What's the signature?
What's the
I
approval?
don't think that's actually in the bylaws. I think that's at the,
That
That might be with
the
the-
$1,000 level. Is it-
no.
No, I haven't seen anything that specifies what the,
Yeah, there's no,
check signing authority.
Oh, yeah, no, and,
there's nothing separate. There's no separation of that in the contracts that you've got. It's just that $1,000 and it's not a flow.
and
So technically, everything has to come through finance committee, $1,000 for whatever reason, and the only signatures on the checks are the people right now that are on the accounts.
The card.
Yes, on
Yeah.
cards,
Yeah.
and at this point, I am temporary, I don't have signature authority. But what I'm saying is, when you are seriously gonna have to think this through.
Who
My
has the authority?
advice is.
okay.
the
You want me-
chair- Yeah,
You can, let me add something. Let me just add to the discussion because it needs to be framed so that people understand this $1,000 threshold. That was set for us to have a basis when it was just me and working with Steve and the few people who were on the finance committee at that time, Mark Watkins, who was with the University of Louisville, because the rent is $1,000 a month. And so they gave me authority to approve up to that, the minor expenses. And that was temporary. Once we have a president and CEO come on board, all of that was designed to be changed. We just did that so that we would have some controls.
Yeah,
We-
these bylaws predate my law.
Yeah, so we that was set back in like October of 2021. I have the minutes for that. There's like the first two finance updates were not official meetings per se. The third meeting we had was in December of 2021, and we have the recording for that. And it wasn't really conducting a meeting like we're conducting now. All that has taken place up to this point was just paying bills, just making sure that we had a process to pay bills. So we're starting totally from scratch to create a system and a process. But $1,000 by no means should spill over into what we're doing now. That was just for me because I was the only person. And I don't have signature. Laura doesn't have the signature right now. All of our payments go through our fiscal partner, who is Otis. So every month, every single invoice for every expenditure was approved either by Steve or Mike, Mark Watkins, and then sent to Otis to pay
right.
and distribute. That's how the process has worked. With the interim chair, it was David James and Steve. I think it was at one point, I think it was David and Steve who had the signing capabilities. But now that David is gone, we're in the process of getting that changed. I think there's been some conversation about that being 3 people, but only needing 2 signatures.
Yes,
Okay, and so that would be you, Dr. Milliner, and J. Michael Brown being on the finance committee.
and that gets to what I was saying about authority to incur expenses is separate from signature authority.
Yes, yes.
Right.
That's 2 different things.
Well, here, and this really gets to my 5th point. you know, the RFP for that, for the financial services for like a financial advisor. I think that we are in need of that. And with the, I'm looking at this, I was on the Arena Authority, I was chairman of the finance committee of the Arena Authority. And we had a financial advisor. And it really got us set up the way that it was supposed to be set up. Now, everything still flowed through the finance committee and, you know, we were transparent, but that advisor did a lot of the work as far as making sure, you know, making sure we were doing what we were supposed to do from a tax standpoint, making sure, I mean, that was their responsibility. Because this committee does not have the time, and I don't think that we want to be responsible for that. So I think that it's very
I'm
important
not
for
on,
us
no.
to get that.
Just pull Jay Michael over.
I just think it's very important for us to get that RFP out and for us to get that set up. And I think that will allow us to structure and create what we need our finances and our processes to look like.
And we do have time, because right now, again, we're just getting started. You have not advertised or gone out and tried to locate a permanent president and CEO. If we get the financial advisor in place, they can tell us, give us advice on the best possible outlines of expense incurring authority, signatures authority whatsoever, because they can model it based
Exactly.
on what other public organizations are doing. We have time to put that in place. The point that I'm making is we absolutely have to address it, because if we don't, it's not only will make it working to operate, because we will be stuck. We won't be able to do ordinary things. It will dramatically hinder our ability to attract a good executive who can run this organization for us.
Well, like I said, I mean, this was probably a month. I said, ago, I want to, we need to get our RFP up before we get everything. So I mean, I don't know, what's the, we need to, how can we get that structured and out there to, and we send it to some, you know, financial advising firms so we can, you know, get that in place.
Who locally provides both type of services?
You know, my pastor, there would be a lot of, you know, financial firms that would be able to do that. Who have I worked with at the Arena Authority? At the time it was Hilliard Lyons, now Baird. I know they do a lot of government kind of advising of that nature. But there would be other financial companies that would be able to do that as well.
Yeah, the other point is, that we do not have a finance staff. There's a decision to be made about whether or not you even want to build that up. That's going to be
I
a
mean,
huge expense.
Well, so what's the relationship with Otis or whoever employs Otis?
The relationship between Otis and him?
And we are.
Okay, Otis is the financial.
Director of Finance. That's our fiscal partner that we've had all
I've
along.
never seen payments for them.
What do you
So
mean
how are they
payment?
getting compensated for the work that they're doing for us?
You were sent the agreement that was between the Western Opportunity Partnership, you know, when you all asked for all the agreements. Theirs was in there as well. And so that agreement was set up in the early stages, you know, before any of the board was in place. Now, they have not been paid anything in that agreement. They agreed to be our fiscal agent, and I think the total is $1,500 for everything that they have done, but they have not invoiced us. We're still in that relationship, and rightfully so, until we could decide what the next best steps are. They've been very generous about, you know, continuing to work with us.
And they really wanted to do it because of what their role and focus is.
In the community, exactly. So that's a very,
Still on board to continue doing it until we find.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They
Mhm.
have said that
Yes,
they would do that.
yes, they have, yes.
And I'm assuming and since I didn't come until July of last year, they were essentially our fiscal agent for purposes of the 501(c) sponsor.
That's exactly right. That's how they got to the table.
Because we obviously didn't have that.
That we did have.
Yeah.
You're right.
That is, but I was gonna tell you something, it is gonna be an expense from a standpoint now, you know,
I mean, we shouldn't expect that for free forever.
right, no, and when you get something for free, sometimes you get what's paid for. I'm not saying what they have not done.
Right.
a
This
good
is the
job,
exception.
But, right, but I'm saying that, you know, that it is gonna be an expense, but you know what, that's an expense that we can't afford not to do, right?
That's
And
right.
I would say that we are gonna get more bang for our buck by having a financial advisor
No doubt,
as opposed to trying to build that expertise in-house.
right,
We will not be able to do that,
no,
because then we have to be competing with the bears of the
Exactly.
for the people.
So we've got the advisory positions, but I mean, we still need somebody to cut the checks and manage the books. So would we need, you know, the advisor plus, the bookkeeper role or the?
No, because
they typically
once we
provide
get-
the service.
Once we get a financial advisor, then our friends Otis Singletary and his organization, they would just fade out of the picture. Those responsibilities would go to the financial advisor responsibility.
Their commitment was, their contractual commitment was actually through, October of 2021. And so they, you know, Kevin Smith, you know, runs Community Ventures. And they're, you know, like I said, doing it to support and their role in the community. And so they have been nothing but gracious. And of course, they manage all of our books right now and do all of our financial reports to the extent that we have that information each month. And I'm sure as we continue to grow, that will become more intricate and more involved.
and now, with, as far as what you're saying, as far as the day-to-day now, look. They will be out of the picture, but it may be the people that remain a part of the finance committee and a part of the board and a part of the organization. Then, you know, as chairman of the arena, I used to come in and we had I would sign monthly checks that were approved already. So there could be some type of process like that.
Yeah, and if we have a budget and everybody, the board has agreed to spend X, Y, and Z. That for me is best practices. I'm fine with that. And I think, you know, eventually it will need to increase. I just don't think that we know what that number is.
The number as far as
But the
The limit.
signature authority, but there, again. Incremental steps. Let's do the RFP here. Identify a financial advisor who can give us good advice on what best practice is,
Exactly.
what we ought to do. Because again, we have time. I'm just cautioning that that should be in place before we try to go out
and do anything.
and try to go out and
And hire,
attract
right.
a
They
permanent president.
might want to keep you
Yeah.
there, so hey, it's-
Their head is going to
Right,
twirl.
no
over.
doubt.
Right.
No doubt.
They look at that and say, what's going on? You know, what are they really expecting?
So, but my question now, what, you know, I don't know, I don't know who put together the RFP that went out. For them, but I'm sure there's some, you know, maybe some boilerplate kind of language.
You can get, and I have pulled some models from the Arena Authority and some other TIFs. We just need to settle on a scope of work.
Yes.
And then I have draft RFP language so with the boilerplate that we can put that in once we decide. How, you know, how we're gonna do the solicitation. Are we gonna try, if there was some discussion of running things through Metro, are we gonna just
Yeah.
have it run through this finance committee for purposes of this RFP, which is fine.
I think it just needs to go through this finance.
Yeah, because right now, Metro, remember when we were looking at the procurement code, our idea again was we wanted to have a public, open, competitive process because we're a public organization. But it would be a tremendous burden for us to build up our own procurement department.
Right.
Who can handle all of our purchases. So why not run our purchases through metro government?
Right.
And we could also elect to run it through MSD, you know, or run it through the water company, since they have something that's already up and running.
Yeah, they've got an infrastructure, but for something like this, where you're soliciting for professional services.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, you don't have to confront that issue yet.
Yes, that ourselves.
Just so you know, I'm talking to people who are trying to get on, so I am paying attention, but. People,
Get on.
yeah, they're just observers, not committee people. Mhm.
So yes, I mean, I would think that would be the first order of business. Let's kind of put this RFP and let's get that approved and make sure before it goes out, everybody understands what's in there, what we're looking for, and then get that out there and then, you know, see what kind of responses that we get. And
I think maybe the committees, best efforts can be zeroed in on describing the work plan. What is it that you want this financial advisor to do? And then we can do the boilerplate.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it needs to have a good, clear scope of services
Yeah.
that you're soliciting, so you get who you want.
and that's where, but I would, you know, my thing, I don't want to leave anything. I really think the scope, this, it's gonna be very similar, in my opinion, to the scope of work that was done. At the
Okay.
bank, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I really want
Get
to
that.
pull that RFP and see what scope was in there. And then from that, if we see that something needs to be added or deleted, we can go by. I think it's gonna be very similar.
One of the things that we have to do, I think, under the statute is to project how much money we think we're gonna get on an annual basis from the tip, from the refunds of property taxes
Yeah.
and the professional taxes.
Well, and
They
even,
did that. I mean, we had to do the same thing, but we did.
and even before that, once, this is the year where we're gonna be figuring out the bonus year child for
Right.
the pay period, and you've gotta have someone to help the board assess that,
No
what we
doubt.
get from the state, because
The gentleman that we talked to at the state say that they were.
they're
after.
going to do it, but we have to review it and
Let me tell you
come to an agreement,
Yeah.
make sure that.
So we need to call the BS if necessary.
Yeah, man, we need our own, we need our own, don't get me wrong, in many cases, it'll be good, but just, we need our own.
And just to discharge your own fiduciary
Yes.
duties, that, to make sure you've reviewed it and agreed with it.
Yeah, so like I said, they did that. I mean, that's what their advisors, that's what our advisors did for us there. So like I said, I just see a lot of similarities but that is. Nobody wants to be on the finance committee with an organization like that without that. I mean, without them.
That's right, because that's too much.
Oh, man.
That's.
I mean, it's an expertise. I mean, just some of the stuff that you have to do. So let me ask you something. What do you think would be the timetable to get that information? You know, because this is, I mean, I feel like we should have about it yesterday. I want to, this is something that we,
I can find these models from the Arena Authority and other local TIFs pretty quick. So, and then circulate that by email to the entire committee. I don't know if you want to have another whole meeting to decide on scope. If you want to look and recommend a scope to the committee for approval. I guess the question is, do you feel a need for it to go to the full board for approval before the RFP goes out?
I would say that we need, I don't know whether it needs to be. When's our next board meeting?
A month from now.
February 27th.
See, I mean, I think we just need to, you know, and at the next board meeting, if we need to change or add something, in my opinion, once we look this up, but I think we ought to get this out first. So then we say, hey, this is the scope that we chose, you know, hey, maybe from that meeting, we come back and we could always add something to, hey,
Yeah.
this is gonna be an addition, based upon a board meeting, but I don't think that we wait a month to try, to do this, to be honest with you.
There's pros
Well,
and
how
cons to
long
that.
per procurement rules does it need to be out?
Pardon me?
How long per procurement rules does it need to be out there?
I mean, if under strict 45A, it would just have to be out there 10 days. But obviously, we'll have it out there longer, so you get a better solicitation. So there's not, in other words, there's not going to be an issue with it not being out long enough.
Well, I'm just trying to project like time.
Yeah.
Um,
What were the, you said there were pros and cons?
there's pros and
Hmm.
cons to hurrying up in doing it, because, you are, kind of building a big machine, and you're trying to bring other people along with you. And the end result of this RFP is going to be to identify an entity with whom you're gonna have this up close and personal relationship for, I would say, a period of years, probably say a 5-year term.
3 to 5. something like that.
35 to make it attractive, because nobody wants it for 1 year.
Right.
So, given that, it may be helpful to involve the full board in some way. If it's not in approving the RFP in total before it goes out, it may be, this is the RFP that the finance committee has settled on to identify a financial advisor. Please review this and let us know if you have any concerns or objections. And if you did it so, forward those by X date. And in that way, it's, everyone knows what it's gonna look like before it hits the street.
I understand. Point well taken. That's what we need to do. Sometimes I think of this is a public, this is not corporate. So speed is not of the most important. From a standpoint. Right. So I agree that that's point well taken. So in my mind, then, if we can come up with what we want the RFP to look like by our next board meeting, we could send it out. We could send it out before the board meeting. So after that board meeting, we could really.
And it may not take that long. If you develop it before the next board meeting and you say, this is the RFP that the finance committee has developed, we want to put it on the street. Please look at this and review it and let the finance committee chair know by X date whether you have any concerns.
Right.
Okay, and then based on the feedback you get, you could still release it.
Right.
The board meeting, but what you gain is everybody knows what's in it and they've had an opportunity.
And that's what we gotta be transparent. So that's one of the most important aspects that we need to always remember as well. Is Jay Mike on the phone?
Yeah, he can speak.
He
He
got
wants to.
Do you agree, Mr. Brown?
I do.
Secretary Brown?
Yeah, no, I do think that. Well, we can bring things, back to the board at the next meeting.
Right.
I'm getting feedback, so.
What about, you good with that? So here in my mind, this is, we spend some time after this, looking at this and getting everything that we need out to, first, in my opinion, I would send it out to everybody at the same time, that finance committee, everybody at the same time, and say, hey, this is.
Well, let the finance, you work with the finance committee to craft it first.
Yeah, and that way you can tell the board that the entire finance committee is comfortable with this scope.
I think we should work in the committee, and then once we've agreed, that it goes to the grading board.
But I wouldn't see any barrier to that all happening before the next board. meeting.
Okay. That's
What I'm thinking.
Yeah,
long as we can, I just want to I do want to make it where we're ready to make sure that we have this document prepared for our next board meeting at that.
I mean, I would make a goal, if possible, that, the whole board has a couple days to review it. I want to send it out at 10 o'clock in the morning for 4:30.
Okay. Okay. Now, I mean, as far as. I think that, once we have that in place, it really, that will address the item 34. Of what we're trying to create, there, to be honest with you. I think, like I said, that's the most important thing that we can do from a financial standpoint to make sure that, we stay on a solid financial footing today and make sure we're planning to stay there for the future.
I mean, I think the benefit of professional help would be to avoid this not sticking around, so.
No doubt.
And, one of the other things is
Really, don't make some.
we need some advice on how to invest the money that we already have.
Already have.
Because we have, if you notice on the financials, we are making money, but we could be making a heck of a lot more money.
Right. But,
With the way the input.
right,
And actually, that was the question I had, like July 1st. We had to raise the money June 30th, and that's a question I put to Otis. On July 1, I mean, it's gonna be sitting in the bank, where can we? But of course, they can't really do anything until this body authorizes
Right.
them to do stuff. So that's like, what, 6 months
right.
of interest or what have you?
Which,
So we're leaving money on the
which
table.
on that amount of money could be.
Yes, 6 months, yeah.
So that's why I like.
Do like CD ladders or something, that's super low risk, or.
Well, but I don't think a good financial advisor is gonna tell somebody to put their money in savings.
It's not right.
Might as well leave it like it is.
That's, I guess.
Don't want
Something super short term better than.
That might get a little more return.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and
it
just,
still
as-
doesn't risk the capital.
yeah, not that it's comparable, but I'm on the board of the Lawyers Mutual Insurance Company. So, we've got investments, we've got bond investments that mature each year, and I'm on the finance committee of them. And we're getting great returns on the bonds we're buying.
Right. I mean, it's just like I said, man, you gotta make sure that for the risk that we want to tolerate, I mean, like I said, that's why we need advisors to get the expert advice to make sure that we, that maybe excellent, hey, you need to stay liquid. I mean, so it's just, like I said, I don't want to be responsible for that. I mean, to be honest, because that's just, I mean, that's a lot. And we need expert advice to make sure that we manage that the way that we should, to be honest. And that's, like I said, that's why I wanted this advisor yesterday. Because we could be leaving some things on the table right now, but
I think we are.
but right now, it's more about setting it up, structure, not
Yeah.
trying to do something and say, hey, yes, we may have left some on the table now.
Right.
We are structured the way that we need to be structured, and we can go out and maximize what we have at this
Mhm.
time.
And then, the other thing that I point out that we need to remember is that we have 2 bank accounts. So it's about half and half, and we have the stockyards that the board voted on. And then we have, I forget, community, whatever, the one was under the fiscal agent, so there's two bank accounts right there. So that's another decision, I guess, this committee or the body will have to make moving forward if that's gonna be consolidated or how that's gonna be worked out.
Like I said, I mean, one of the things I think in Stockyards, it's community bank and good community bank. One of the things I think we'll need to make sure that we try to do is try to support the many homegrown community organizations as we can. So I would say that based on some of those deposits, we want to make sure that we can, if it is proven, financially proven, we try to make sure that we can do business with local based Kentucky owned companies.
Yes, you can develop a relationship that means
We need
something.
something, yeah. So
When you need something,
and that's,
you can ask for it.
I think that would be something, from a standpoint, once we have the things in place, hey, let's see where we can get the best returns for, for these accounts, so they could advise us, and that could be, RFPs that we do out for deposits or something, you know what I mean? So, I mean, to make sure that we're maximizing and some of the things that are in there could be, trying to make sure that we also, deal with local companies. Kentucky-based
Mhm.
companies.
Great, and, you know, when we need things, we should ideally have the relationships in advance. And then you don't have to convince them you're not crazy.
No doubt about that.
I didn't hear what you said, Mike.
So it's important to have the relationships in advance, so
Oh.
that you don't have to convince them you're not crazy, or they know the level of crazy that you are before you need to work on.
Yeah,
Now, if you, go back, to the initial that we thought that we had about the where is and the $1,000 limitation. Because we have such such fine legal assistance. She, had a thought about, a document that we could use to help facilitate that, even at that level. Maybe you want to break that out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got,
Oh,
and in fact, I've just tweaked it here if
okay.
we want to approve expenditures in advance, which I think could be done under the way it's written, but the paper version I've brought is one, and I think everyone else
Yeah,
may
look
have
at-
seen it. But if there are, if there's a finance committee meeting and there are expenditures or bills that need to be paid, we can do a quick resolution, and here's a form resolution. We can just list them in, and those can be voted on, approved, and documented. Just for posterity, and just like we do our minutes and everything else.
Okay, so I think that.
Mhm.
Jordan.
I was gonna say another point, Bill, for total transparency, I'm trying to bring in all the historical pieces, since this is our first formal. So up until this point, from the outset, when it came to payments, I basically took care of everything in terms of expenses and then got reimbursed. And even today, that's still how it works. So, I mean, there's no issue on my part with that. I chose to do it because we didn't have any choice. We don't have
There's
a,
no like corporate credit card.
we don't have a corporate credit card. We don't have any of that. So I have floated everything for almost 2 years. And then,
And then at the end of the month.
no, you don't, oh, no. That's what the monthly process, outside of the rent, then our independent contractor fees. But like, it's not huge expenses, popcorn, potato chips, board binders when I go to Kinko's, the board security, that kind of thing.
But that needs to change.
Yes, it does. I just want to make sure that you all have all the history in terms of total transparency. No one asked me to do it. When I was asked to come on to kind of help take this from paper to reality, we needed a computer, we needed a phone. Okay, and so like the phone is set up, it had, I do a separate reimbursement for that, but I put it under my account so that we could get the discount, so that we could be conscious. When I say I put it under my account, it gets a separate bill and that gets turned in. But it makes it very affordable. The computer, we needed a laptop. So I purchased this myself. And then, so everything, every penny that has been spent to date is documented and has been submitted to Otis. Yeah, every dime down to the penny.
So man, I think that we need to do that differently. We need to get the guys, because we need to start operating as an organization. And from a standpoint, I don't know from as far as Otis, he could have all that information audit done, hey, this is how we did up here, boom, new date, we're doing different
Mhm.
and move forward. But that, in my opinion, man, like I said, we need to do that immediately. Yesterday.
On this, I think this is fine. I think what I would add is, whether it's a one-time authorization or in perpetuity, or we could have from this point to this point, like from so many months or something like that.
I think every time that we have to do this, we just have, what, I mean, this would be,
And then if it's something that's gonna be a continuing authorization or an authorization for
Right.
it not to exceed amount, we can put that in on what's authorized under the resolution.
And it's a way to keep, it's a paper trail.
exactly.
Mhm.
It says this was an authorized expenditure.
And we have paper trail for all the expenditures, even on the rent. I have them send a monthly invoice. And if I have to write a check for something like our monthly security person,
Mhm.
and I've written that out of my business check, but I make a copy of the check. And that goes in to show, for that. So there is a paper trail on every single expenditure that has been, expended to date.
Okay. But yeah,
Still, that's a real arcane way to.
yeah, but we, like I said,
Yes.
we need to do that differently ASAP. So, like I said, I mean, I think that this would be a good first step as far as, you know, approving things over that, so there is something that people are seeing and approving and moving forward. And then, like I said, getting
Or
our.
if you have a stacker, then you have a de facto budget, so.
Well, maybe, no, but that's.
Right.
Mhm.
Story.
It's a
But you
stopgap.
have a
makes it
list of
apply.
authorized expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Authorized
Right.
expense.
Okay, so I mean, I just take now the most important thing is to, let's get this RFP in shape and the finance committee, you know, we go out there, get the information. Let's get the finance committee so we can be in agreement and make a recommendation to the board. And then, like I said, hopefully we don't make it where you ain't got to use personal stuff at ASAP.
Oh, and I really want to be clear on that. It's, you know, everyone understood, and even I did, that's temporary. It's like starting a new business.
Right,
Because I tell people the only difference between a for-profit and a nonprofit is a piece of paper. So you have to start from scratch. We did not do that thinking that this is gonna happen, it's gonna be this way for eternity. We did what we had to do to keep things moving forward.
but what?
Maybe a little bit longer than we
What kind
anticipated.
of spend do you typically have? I mean, what kind of, because my thing is, look here, man, you've had X amount of dollars at Stockyards for a long period of time now, in my opinion. So being able to get some type of credit card shouldn't be
Yeah.
that difficult. You know,
Yeah.
you know, what, you know, is it, you know, 2,500,
Oh, no, it is not even that, you know, it's very minimal. It's, you know, it could be, for example, the board binders I just purchased, well, not purchased, had them to duplicate for the new members, 5 of them. At Kinko's was $252, but that's temporary. Hopefully, when we get into the procurement, we'll be able to, you know, bring that down. So it could be $200 to $400, depending on what it is, but it's not that much, you know, the rent is the big thing. And then,
But
of
we
course,
still
we,
pay that with the check, you know, you're not paying.
no, everything goes to, once it's approved, it goes to Otis.
Right.
And Otis, now what we are trying to do is to do that, direct deposit piece that, David started before he left, in terms of trying to get that done to make it easier, so we don't have lost checks. 'Cause,
Yes.
yeah, we had a lost check from,
But I'm just saying from an operational standpoint, getting a credit card, you know, limit $1,000. So when you go out and you gotta do something, boom, we
I could
use
do
that.
that.
And then it comes back, we get a statement and, you know, we pay it.
Right, and I would still do the same documentation, you know, all the paper trail,
Right.
yes.
It just needs to be in our name.
That's right.
And doing business, so
Mhm.
you just need to.
And this is our, you know, this is our official phone number. So this also needs to be in, so when we
Right.
set up to buy a phone, we couldn't get it in the partnership's name because we didn't have we didn't have anything to, you know, to do it. So that's why I set it up the way I did. And this is, you know, I've been reimbursed for that. So this is the property of the partnership as well as the phone and the number and everything. So again, we knew it was temporary. And so no one's tripping on it, but we are glad to be moving to that next level.
Have to move to the
Yes.
next level.
Yes, on so many levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're holding ourselves out in a
Yes.
certain way. We have to operate in a way
Yes.
that matches the reputation that we want to build.
100%.
Mhm.
That's why, like I said, I mean, I think that hopefully, I mean, we should be able to get that done right now. Is who are the signers on the Stockyards account right now?
David and I think David and Alicia was on the finance committee at the time. So both of them will come off when you all come on. So they need a copy of the minutes or something from us stating the new officers. Would that be something?
Yeah, it should be minutes
Oh, yeah, the minutes from that meeting, the board minutes, they need a copy.
They may want a resolution.
They didn't ask for one. I think they asked for the minutes and then, and those are in draft form from the third. So we'll get that over to them. And then they'll want to talk to you about the ACH training or some little training they want to do since you're the new treasurer.
Now, with that, you probably all would, whoever's up, be there with me, because I don't, from an operational standpoint, I probably still would want you. to be
Okay.
there
That's fine.
As well.
Okay.
But then at that point, when I do that, when I say, look here, man, we need to get a credit card, T&E, an expense
Mhm.
card in the name, and,
Mhm.
like I said, with the deposits, that should not.
I don't think that's an issue at all. It just has been requested because we were not trying to get ahead of the board. And that's another reason we did things the way we did.
Perfect.
Okay, so that there would be total transparency, no issues and no question.
Right. Fine. So, I mean, I don't think I really had anything else I really want to get accomplished for today, other than
I
that.
think that is what happens.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I just think that, look here, this is a monthly meeting. The finance committee is gonna have a monthly meeting,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, look here, man, that was what people are looking at the most is finance. They want to make sure that, we're doing our fiduciary responsibility, we're handling things the way that we should. And so we have to meet and we have to make sure that we stay on top of that. So we will meet every month and like I said, we'll keep track of what we're spending and we'll keep track of the assets that we have, making sure that, we're being as prudent as we should.
Do you want to set a particular day and time for the regular meeting?
You know what, I really would like to,
Dr. Craddock asked the same, he couldn't be here. He wanted to know
Does-
what the monthly was going to be.
does a Friday still work for folks?
Probably.
I mean, it would be something like this is the second Friday of the month or something like that.
So it'll be before the regular meeting.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it
Yeah.
gives, it's enough space in between that if anything needs to be done, we have time before the board
Exactly.
meeting to get it done. This works, I think, and I like this space.
But one of the things I made, I don't know where, I'll do like, I mean, if it's not here, at the Republican Foundation, why, as well, I could, we
Yeah.
could meet there, I wouldn't, or we could go downtown.
So say my office is downtown.
Yes, I mean, I
Oh,
would,
yeah,
we could meet here downtown or at the Y location.
Yeah.
well, I have to say, I do like the convenience of this setup. So are you talking about the downtown Republic Bank location, not the foundation?
The market or the.
Yes, I like being able to come in and just put a little, just plug it in.
We would have the same, we
Yeah.
had the same thing at our corporate headquarters, but if it's not like this at.
It'd be
the
similar,
Y,
yeah. At the Y, it's a little bit more challenging because that room is so long.
But the
and-
bank has
down there.
Mm.
And I
Conference room.
I would just have to see if we have all the bells and whistles in that, and we very well.
But at the foundation, we could, I mean, at the foundation, wide 18, because it would be a smaller group. It's not like we're doing the big board meeting. So we could be closer up to the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like we are here.
So we can meet in the branch, we can meet in the Republic Bank office space,
Yeah,
and I know in the conference room, and we may have the same, I
Yeah.
just don't know
Yeah,
sure yet.
yeah.
okay, let us know on
It's
that.
a nice.
But
Yeah,
we'll do the second Fridays of the month, and then I'll let you know the.
Location.
Location.
okay, okay.
And if we're not expecting like more than 10 to 15 people, to do some of them now.
Secretary Brown, you good? You've been quiet.
Well, yeah, I think I'm getting feedback, but downtown would work for me, just like today. I got jammed on something here at school. And I was in a no man's zone, you know, if I left, I wasn't going to get out there till 2:15. The better option was to stay. If it's downtown any place, I could be there in 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. The second Friday of the month, that's good for you though?
Fridays are generally pretty good, yeah, as long as we don't start going real late in the afternoon after the weather
Like
breaks.
2 o'clock is
Yeah,
good.
we won't go late in the
Like,
afternoon. Yeah. Keep it at 2.
Okay,
This is,
Downtown is better.
A good meeting.
thank you.
So do we want to stockpile, do some of these today or?
Well, I don't think there's anything
I don't think there's any expenses right now.
to be approved that I'm gonna pay.
no, I'm just, matter of fact, that's just lined up for me to do this weekend.
But this will be an efficient way to handle it going forward.
Right.
Until we can make a change.
Until we get everything unlocked, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Look it up. Any other question? Do we need a motion to adjourn? I can just adjourn.
You could just adjourn.
Consensus?
Yeah.
Have a great week.
What's the time on it? Let me make sure I get that down. 2:55. Thank you.
Plus it.
Yeah, and I know that I will be on a flight. that says-
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Word.
Barton College outside of Raleigh. But, I'll check and make sure Mark can be here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.